Old Goa, the legacy of Portuguese. Goa is a unique region of India whose history is closely linked to the Portuguese colonization period of over 450 years. Portuguese India has left a significant mark on the culture, architecture, religion, and lifestyle of this region. Goa stands out from other Indian states due to its blend of Indian and European traditions. Boramare, brew some masala chai, sit back comfortably, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Today we're going back in time to see why Goa is that special place on earth. Let's go. The beginning of Portuguese colonization. Old Goa, Velha Goa, once the thriving capital of the Portuguese possessions in India, is now an important historical and cultural monument. This small city reflects the splendor of the colonial era and retains a heritage that makes it unique among other regions of India. Old Goa was founded in the early 15th century by the Bahmani dynasty and later came under the control of the Sultanate of Bijapur. Due to its advantageous location on the coast, Old Goa quickly became a major trading center, attracting merchants and missionaries from all over the world. In 1497, Vasco da Gama blazed a sea route to India, and by 1510, the Portuguese navigator Afonso de Albuquerque conquered the land, ousting the ruler of Bijapur, Adil Shah. This event turned Goa into a key trading port and military base for Portugal in Asia. The main objective of the Portuguese was to control trade routes and a monopoly on spices. During the 16th century, Goa became the most important center of the Portuguese Empire in Asia. Old Goa acquired the status of capital, becoming a thriving city with magnificent cathedrals, palaces, and monasteries. It was one of the most prosperous and populated cities in Asia, surpassing the size of many European capitals. The city reached its peak, earning the nickname Rome of the East for its abundance of churches, monasteries, and other religious buildings. The city was famous for its infrastructure, paved streets, fountains, and aqueducts, as well as for its active trade in spices, silk, and jewelry. The Portuguese actively promoted the spread of Catholicism, built churches and schools, and tried to introduce the European way of life. However, this was accompanied by repression of the local population, including forced Christianization and the destruction of Hindu temples. Spices, silk, gold, and other goods passed through Goan ports, making the region prosperous. The Portuguese established trade links with Persia, Arab countries, China, and other parts of Asia. Goa also became a center for the slave trade, which added to tensions with the local population. Decline and struggle for independence. Despite its prosperity, by the end of the 17th century, the city began to decline. By the 18th century, Portugal's influence began to wane due to the growing power of the British and French empires. The main causes were epidemics of plague and malaria, as well as changes in trade routes. Gradually, the inhabitants began to leave the city, and in 1843, the Portuguese moved the capital to Panaji, and Old Goa was virtually abandoned. Many buildings fell into disrepair, and some were destroyed by time and the elements. After the transfer of the capital to Panaji in 1843, Old Goa finally lost its importance as an administrative center. However, the Portuguese continued to hold on to the region, developing it as part of their overseas territory. During this period, Panaji became the new center of power, with improved infrastructure, roads, and public facilities. The second half of the 19th century saw the development of railroads in Goa, which improved transportation links to other regions. Trade in spices and agricultural products continued to generate income, but Goa no longer played a leading role in the world economy. By the early 20th century, nationalist movements inspired by the struggle for independence in British India had intensified in Goa. Despite this, the Portuguese continued to hold on to power, using harsh repressive measures against activists. In 1910, there was a revolution in Portugal that overthrew the monarchy, and Goa became part of the First Portuguese Republic. This led to minor reforms, but major questions about the self-determination of the region remained unresolved. During World War II, Goa remained a neutral territory like Portugal itself, allowing it to remain economically stable. In 1946, the Portuguese government suppressed peaceful action, and its leaders were arrested.
President and members of the Constituent Assembly. I have a message from His Majesty the King to deliver to you today. This is His Majesty's message. On this historic day, when India takes her place as a free and independent dominion in the British Commonwealth of Nations, I send you all my greetings and heartfelt wishes. Freedom-loving people everywhere will wish to share in your celebrations. For with this transfer of power by consent comes the fulfillment of a great democratic ideal, to which the British and Indian peoples alike are firmly dedicated. It is inspiring to think that all this has been achieved by means of peaceful change.
The first steps towards the liberation of Goa. On August 15, 1947, India gained independence and Britain was forced to abandon its colony. India was faced with the task of uniting the disparate territories. This led to the formation of the Indian Union, which existed until January 26, 1950, when India became a republic. The process of unification of territories began, and in 1948, the Principality of Hyderabad became a part of the Indian Union. At that time, the Indian subcontinent consisted not only of the lands of former British India, but also many principalities and colonial possessions of European powers. If with the French territories it was possible to agree peacefully, but with Portugal a compromise was impossible. Goa remained under Portuguese control. Portugal, under the leadership of António Salazar, refused to discuss the transfer of the enclaves. Salazar argued that Goa had never been part of the Mughal Empire and therefore had no historical connection to India. The Indian side responded with geographical and ethno-linguistic arguments, but diplomacy stalled. In 1954, India introduced a visa regime for residents of Portuguese India, which effectively paralyzed land communication between the enclaves. Second attempt at Satyagraha in Goa. Within Portugal itself, calls began to be made to abandon the hold on Goa. In 1954, a group of Portuguese historians and writers proposed the idea of self-determination for Goa within a renewed Portuguese federation. In 1956, the Portuguese ambassador to France, Marcelo Matias, almost convinced dictator António de Oliveira Salazar to hold a referendum on self-determination in Goa, but this was strongly opposed by the ministers of Foreign Affairs and Defense. Nevertheless, despite some hesitation, Salazar decided not to back down. In 1955, Goa was granted administrative autonomy, becoming the only one of the Portuguese overseas provinces to be granted such status. Despite the isolation, the Portuguese actively developed their enclaves. Under the leadership of Governor-General Paulo Benar Guedes, schools, hospitals, roads and even airports were built. The TAEP airline, established in 1955, linked Goa with other Portuguese colonies. However, all efforts to improve living conditions could not eliminate the local population's desire for reunification with India. The Goa Liberation Party, Azad Homantak Dal, and the Goan United Front were active in the struggle for Goa's independence and insisted on armed resistance. The Indian government provided them with financial support and arms. The armed groups were important because the people of Goa showed little enthusiasm for the struggle. Firstly, many of them were used to a peaceful life under Portuguese rule and were afraid of change. And secondly, the standard of living in Goa was much higher than in the rest of India. Operation Vijay. The year 1961 marked a turning point in history when India conducted a successful military operation to retake Portuguese territories on its soil. This event ended more than 4 centuries of Portuguese domination of the region and marked the end of its colonial era. In the summer of '61, taking advantage of Portugal's distraction by the rebellion in Angola, India began preparations for a military operation to retake the enclaves. Operation Vijay, Victory, was planned involving all branches of the military. In December, more than 45,000 Indian soldiers, supported by Air and Navy, moved on Goa, Daman, and Diu. The Portuguese garrison, numbering only about 3,500 men, was unable to offer serious resistance. Within 36 hours, India had gained complete control of the enclaves. On December 19, '61, Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru announced the return of the Portuguese territories to India. This event was not only an important step towards national consolidation, but also signaled the final decline of European colonialism in Asia. Traces of Portuguese heritage in Goa. Goa is one of the most popular tourist regions in India, attracting millions of visitors with its beaches, architecture, and unique heritage that combines Indian and Portuguese culture. Goa has also retained the Portuguese language as a cultural heritage, although it is used less and less frequently in everyday life. Nevertheless, the Portuguese influence is felt in the music, dance, and traditions of the region. Goan cuisine combines elements of Portuguese and Indian traditions, with dishes such as vindaloo pork and balchao fish. The architecture retains Catholic churches, monasteries, and colonial-style houses. Walking around Goa, you will notice details reminiscent of the Portuguese heritage. Clay cockerels on the roofs of houses, Catholic churches in small villages. The Portuguese not only built fortifications, but also transformed the region with temples, schools, and mansions, converting the local population to Catholicism. Many Goans still practice Catholicism, and holidays such as Christmas and Easter are widely celebrated in the region. Mixed marriages between Portuguese and Indians became common practice, and Christian symbolism began to infiltrate local traditions, creating a unique cultural fusion. The surnames of the inhabitants are Torquala, Fernandes, Bragança, and Pereira. Architectural monuments. The state of Goa in India is known for more than beaches, night markets, and yoga retreats. It hides a rich cultural heritage left over from Portuguese colonization. These are majestic churches, exquisite mansions, and ancient villas that are worthy of every traveler's attention. Old Goa, Vela Goa, is the historical center of the region, included in the list of UNESCO World Heritage Sites. The main attractions are located on a spacious street surrounded by temples. Basilica of Bom Jesus is a famous church built in 1605 that houses the relics of Saint Francis Xaverian. This basilica is a striking example of Baroque architecture and one of the most important Christian pilgrimage sites in Asia. The interior of the basilica is characterized by lavish carved altars decorated with gilding and wooden sculptures. St. Catherine's Cathedral, Say Cathedral, is the largest cathedral in Asia, dedicated to Saint Catherine of Alexandria. Its construction was completed in 1619. There is a famous golden bell and 15 altars, each of which is decorated with scenes from the life of the saints. The interior of the cathedral is decorated with magnificent frescoes depicting scenes from the life of Christ and Saint Catherine. Church of Saint Francis of Assisi combines Manueline style and Baroque elements, preserving unique carved altars and frescoes. The original construction of the church dates back to 1521, but in the 17th century, the building was reconstructed in its present form. One of the key landmarks is the Viceroy's Arch. Viceroy's Arch, it was the gateway for noble viceroys coming from Portugal to enter the city. The arch was erected in 1599 and served as the main entrance to the city from the Mandovi River. Church of St. Cajetan, inspired by St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, this church shows Italian architectural influences and is strikingly beautiful. It was built in 1661 with funds from the monks of the Theatine order and features an elegant late Baroque facade. St. Augustine Tower is the ruins of a huge monastery, once one of the largest in Old Goa. The only surviving tower of the monastery, 46 meters high, is a reminder of the grandeur of the past. The monastery once included a library, theological classrooms, and living quarters for the monks. Contemporary significance. Today, Old Goa is an important tourist and religious center. Every year, thousands of pilgrims and tourists visit the city, especially during the commemoration of the death anniversary of Saint Francis Xaverian in December. The architectural monuments are carefully preserved and restored so that future generations can marvel at the cultural heritage of Old Goa. Walking through the ancient streets, you can feel the spirit of the past centuries and imagine how splendid and lively this city was during its golden age. It was here that a unique atmosphere was formed, which can still be felt in every object created by local craftsmen. You don't have to travel to India to experience this culture. Traditional Indian jewelry, incense, textiles and Ayurvedic remedies inspired by Goa's history can be found on goabuy.com. Experience the magic of Old Goa through authentic goods that hold centuries-old traditions. The link is in the description. Thanks for watching till the end. Leave your comments and subscribe. That incentivizes us to make the videos longer and more interesting. Amit Kumar Sawant. See you soon.